Hi, I'm Les, and this is Comfortable Shoes Studio and another episode of Chat While I Draw. In today's episode, I want to talk about longer term projects and figuring out how long those projects might take you. So, I've been thinking about a couple of things. So, I work at a after school program with kids, and I have to think about longer term projects a little differently than I do when it's just for me. Um, but also, when I'm working on a project, I do like to sometimes think about how long it's going to take me. So, like the 100 Heads project, I've been really thinking about like the time and effort it takes to complete a longer term or larger project like that. With the kids, this will be useful information maybe for folks who work with teenagers and middle schoolers. I no longer work with elementary kids. And I find this also is works for adults who don't have a strong arts knowledge. So, like if you teach beginner art classes for adults, this would apply to that too. So, when I'm planning out a project for middle schoolers up to adults, beginner level adults, this is what I do. I sit down and I make the project. I do the project from start to finish, and I time myself. So, every hour that I take to complete something, I think to myself, that hour is equivalent to probably 2.5 hours of a middle schooler's time. For high school students, it's about 2 hours worth of their time, and then about the same for adults, beginner level adults. If I'm working with intermediary adults or adults who have some understanding of art materials or the type of materials we're going to be using. So I would say it's about an hour and a half to an hour and 45 minutes of adult time. Now, depending on the length of the classes or groups that you're running, um, I generally break it down to okay, an hour, 45 minutes to an hour of my time is one group with a middle schooler or a high school student, and then the same thing with adults. So I just kind of like think about it in those terms, and then I think, okay, if this took me 4 hours, that's four groups with middle schoolers. If it takes me 4 hours, that's probably going to be four-ish groups with high school students, and then finally like the same thing for adults. And so like when I'm thinking about like the 100 Heads project, what I did was I kind of timed myself. I didn't kind of, I did. I actually timed myself for the first 10 heads. And then, as I recorded, I realized if I look at the recording time, I actually get the actual elapsed time for um that head, that drawing that I did. And that becomes a useful metric for figuring out okay, how long is this actually going to take me? How much of my time do I need to devote to completing one of these heads tonight? And, it really, for the heads, the big factor was size and material. So uh, when I did one color of ink or pencil, it took less time. Each of the little 2 by 3 inch heads took about 10 to 15 minutes. The larger the head, the longer it took. And so, just estimating, the 100 heads. If I'm looking at the 100 heads as a total, and I look at each head taking me about 15 minutes, that's 1,500 minutes that I spent devoted to drawing portraits. That's a lot of time. And we know it's more time than that because some of the heads actually took 30 minutes. The larger sizes took 20 to 30 minutes. Sure, the majority of the heads that I made or drawings that I did took, 15 minutes or so, 10 to 15 minutes. So, not nearly as much time as the very large heads. And that I did post some real time video of those heads, the first 45 of them, and it was 4.5 hours long. I split it up into I think four different initial videos, and I'll post some more of those real time videos for the last 50 heads. I did lose the video for, I think, 7 of the heads, but I've got the video for all of the rest of the heads. But I just find it kind of fascinating to think about like the sheer amount of time that I've spent drawing faces, and thinking about like like extrapolating that out to how much time does it actually take to complete a project like that. Any sort of project that requires um, repetitive um, like work on something always requires a lot of time. And I think it's time well spent in my book. Like, I really think that the 100 Heads project has been really useful to me, but only because I've done it in my own way. You know, I've split up the heads and I've worked on the heads when I've had time. I haven't said, okay, I'm going to do this in 10 days, which is the actual challenge. It's 100 heads in 10 days. And, you know, I didn't have 2,000 minutes to spare in 10 days of when I started doing this 100 Heads project. You know, I've pecked at it here and there. You know, do I actually like spending 30? I prefer spending 30 minutes over doing a 10-minute session. Um, I just really prefer devoting a half hour of my life to drawing. That is preferable to me. Have I done some 10-minute sessions on this? Absolutely. Um, but not out of really want, out of necessity. I've had to do that because, you know, I got interrupted, or, you know, fill in the blank for whatever reason. I did that. And I think working on a project like that, knowing that you're going to spend 1,500 to 2,000 minutes on it, is just useful to know that it does take up a huge portion of time. And one of the things that I noticed when I watch some of these challenge videos is that, you know, the videos are shot in a way to really emphasize the skill of the artist or the progression of the artist in their skill. And it doesn't necessarily highlight for me the sheer amount of time that they are spending working on their talent. Um, and really, drawing is a skill, and with any skill you can learn how to do it better. I have a lot of kids who tell me, oh, I can't do that, I can't do that, I can't do that. It's like, if you actually spend the time to do it, you can do it. I'm not the world's greatest artist, I just have a good work ethic. You know, like, I love art, I love making art, and I'm not the world's greatest artist, and I'm comfortable with saying that. What I do have is a strong work ethic. I show up with my sketchbook. I work in my sketchbook on a regular basis. I make art on a regular basis, and I work hard at making the art. And yeah, there are times like right now when I'm stressed out and I'm busy and I'm doing extra hours at the old jobby job, um, and I don't get to make art as much. But it's still like I still have that strong work ethic, whether it's at my day job or it's part of my art making, my art practice. And I think I think that's important. I think acknowledging that art isn't just fun and games. Art is also about the work ethic and putting the work in. You know, we talk about that a lot in art therapy circles. We talk about, you got to put the work in, and I hear that from therapists all the time. You got to put the work in. My coworkers, my friends who are therapists, well, you know, they really got to put the work in, and that applies to a lot of things, not just therapy and therapeutic interventions, or like when you want to make change or you want to improve yourself. Yeah, you got to put the work in. Nothing happens magically. No one's going to, you know, wave a magic wand. There's no magic pill, there's no magic bullet. There is time. And you have to decide where you're going to devote your time, where you're going to put your effort in. And for me, it's about making art. You know, for me, I'm going to put my work ethic towards making art because that is something I seriously enjoy, and I enjoy doing it on a regular basis. And I think that's important. I think that's an important aspect of all of these large scale challenges when it comes to making art on a regular basis or making art in one big chunk, like 100 days project, 100s project. All of these projects, they require that you devote some time and energy and effort towards these things. And I think I think it's time well spent. I think it's not the easiest thing in the whole world, and it's not always fun. Like so there were times when I was sitting down with those 100 heads, and I was like, "God damn, this is not the channel I swear on. Cut that out." Um, I can edit that out. Um, yeah, so just spending some time and effort on these things is really, really important, and I think worthwhile. I think that's the big takeaway from this is that time and effort spent on making art is well worth it. So with that, I'm gonna say thank you for being here. I appreciate you for um, joining me on this channel and sticking around with me and being here. And I will see you next time. Hit that subscribe button and the thumbs up if you feel like it. Share a video with someone you think might find this helpful. Thanks, and I'll see you next time. Bye.